everyone, my name is Karen, this is my channel Rather Be Reading, and today I'm bringing to you my 2019 reading statistics and goal review. 2019 is officially over, so it's time to look at the reading year as a whole, and we're going to look at my statistics, like I said, for the reading year, and then also all of the goals that I set for 2019 and how I did on them. So let's just jump straight in with statistics. So I read a total of 293 books in 2019, which I'm super happy with. It's the most amount of books I've ever read in a year by far. The most the most I'd ever read last year with 250, and so I surpassed it by like 43 books this year, so I'm very happy with that number. In addition to the 293 books that I completed, I did DNF an additional 12. The 293 that I completed included 14 rereads. So to kind of break down what that was made up of, I read 267 novels. I read 8 children's novels, 11 graphic novels, 1 novella, 3 essays, 1 poem, 1 short story collection, and 1 manga collection. I read 151 books in physical format. I read 52 ebooks, and I listened to 90 audiobooks. And then excluding the audiobooks as always and just taking into account kind of physical and ebooks, I read 139 books that I own and 64 from the library. I am hugely happy with that statistic because I'm more than double the amount of library books that I read. Like the books that I read that I owned was more than double the library books that I read, which I'm very happy with. I read a total of 101,760 pages, which is crazy. I cracked the 100,000 page mark. That was an increase of 21,369 pages from last year, which is just truly astounding to me. So that averaged out to 279 pages per day, which is an increase of 59 pages per day, from last year. To have got my average page number per day over 250, that's kind of mind-boggling. The longest book that I read this year was 980 pages, and the shortest book that I read was 4 pages. Just kind of ridiculous. That was the poem that I read. I read The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe this year, which I read that poem and it counted to my everything, but it is only a 4-page poem. Just if you're interested in kind of length of books that I read, I didn't go into every category of page length, but I read 23 books that were over 500 pages this year. Which was 8 more than I read last year, which was interesting. And then I read 42 books that were under 200 pages, which is 6 less than I read last year. So I was reading a lot more longer books this year. So not only did I read more books, the books that I was reading were on average longer this year as well. I will just quickly touch on how many star ratings I gave of each kind of star rating. So I gave 1.5 star rating. So that was the lowest star rating that I gave, and I only gave one book 1.5. I didn't give any 1 stars or 1.25 stars, so that's not too bad. I also didn't give any 1.75 stars. I did give 19 2 stars, no 2.25. I gave 17 2.5 stars, 8 2.75 stars, 55 3 stars, 19 3.25 stars, 60 3.5 stars. That is my most common rating by far. 37 3.75 star ratings, 46 4-star ratings, 8 4.25 star ratings, 14 4.5 star ratings, and 9 5 stars. And 2 of those 9 were rereads. So 9 5-star reads, technically 7 if you don't include those rereads, out of 290 plus books. When I say that I'm stingy with my 5 stars, I really do mean it. Another statistic that I just thought you might find interesting is I read 39 2019 releases. I didn't break down every release year, but 39 of the books that I read this year were published in 2019, which I think is probably, I didn't check, but it's probably the most amount of books published in that year that I've ever read, because I was reading a lot more NetGalley this year, and that's where most of my 2019, actually that's probably not true. It's probably about half NetGalley ARCs, but then also my library, because a lot of the audiobooks that I'll read, my library has upped their game massively over this past year at bringing in more current recent releases. So that's probably where about half of those come from as well. And then just in terms of kind of age range, I read 98 YA books, but I read 166 adult books. So adult definitely makes up the larger portion of what I read. And then I just realized I never said what my average star rating for the year was, which I meant to say before. My average star rating for the year is 3.43 stars, which is up 0.09 stars from last year, which brings it up to actually the same average rating that I had for 2017, I believe, which is interesting. I will say as well, I just wanted to mention, all of these statistics are like in-depth statistic that I have actually worked out myself. Not to say that people who use the Goodreads statistics like aren't, like that it's not, but for me, I know it's not accurate. A lot of times with the, I mean, it's accurate to the number of books, but in terms of pages and all of that, it's way inaccurate. I often the version of the book on Goodreads does not match the page numbers. I keep an accurate track of every book that I read and how many pages it is in the actual copy that I read, or obviously for audio and physical, I find like the equivalent as best I can. And I calculate it that way. And then obviously my star rating, like I think according to Goodreads, my average was 3.3. It was actually 3.43, which I'm very happy with because it ended up being a bit higher than what Goodreads had said. But because I used 0.25, 0.5, and 0.75, which Goodreads obviously doesn't, it's never going to work out to be an accurate representation of what my actual star rating is. So anyway, I just thought I'd mention that. In terms of genre that I was reading in 2019, my most read genre is technically contemporary with 59, followed by thriller with 54. But then if you take into account, I separate mystery and crime into two separate other genres, and I read 9 mystery and 11 crime. So if you combine that in with thriller, that would take that up. And then also if I read some romance as well, which you could add into contemporary, but if you add in like thriller, mystery, and crime all together, that is kind of probably my most read genre, which makes sense because thriller is massively my favorite genre, and the majority of the NetGalley arcs that I request are thrillers. So there's that. My best reading month in terms of number of books read was May. I read 32 books in May. My best month of reading in terms of average star rating was March, where my average star rating was 3.71, which is really good for me. My average star rating is generally under a 3.5. Sorry, my legs are getting really sore. I'm filming like 4 videos today in a row, so my legs are sore. So yeah, anything above a 3.5 is great. So to hit a 3.7 is really, really great. And then I just thought I'd include a statistic about series as well, because I don't think I ever really include that or talk about that in my statistics, but I thought it would be fun to mention. So I completed because I do keep track of my series. I completed a total of 17 series in 2019. 4 of those were series that I was reading prior to the beginning of 2019. And then the remaining were obviously ones that I just started and read the whole series within the year. I also caught up on an additional 6 series. So series that are still ongoing, but I've caught up to like the most recent release in that series. And again, 4 of those series were ones that I was reading pre-2019, and then 2 of them were ones that I have started and am now waiting for the next release. And then I also, on top of that, DNF'd 8 series. Only one of those was a series that I was reading prior to 2019 that I read like another book of, and then decided to DNF it. The rest of those were all series that I read 1 or possibly 2 books of within 2019, and then decided I wasn't going to continue. So that I just thought might be an interesting statistic in case you guys are interested. So those are all of the statistics. I'm now going to jump into my 2019 goals that I had set for myself and find out how I did. I will leave a link to my 2019 goals video in case you guys are interested in going to check that out. But my very first reading goal was, of course, just the Goodreads reading challenge. And I set my Goodreads reading challenge for 2019 at 220 books, which was the highest that I had ever set it. I hit 220 on the 28th of September, and I then upped it to 250. I then hit 250 on the 30th of October, and I didn't like up it again, but as we've discussed, I did end up hitting 293. So I hugely surpassed my Goodreads reading goals. That was a successful goal. I then had my reading goal of reading the next 10 books on my physical to read list. So in case you're new and you don't know, I have a notebook with a physically written out to read list that pre-exists my Goodreads. I've had it going for a really, really, really long time. And so I wanted to read the next, it's like 45 pages long at this point, and I'm only on page like 6 or something. And so I wanted to read the next 10 books that were in on that notebook. So they were My Name is Memory by Amber Shares, which I did read. I gave 2.75 stars. Then Before I Fall by Lauren Oliver, which I did read. I gave 3.75 stars. Then Her Fearful Symmetry by Audrey Niffenegger, which I gave 2.5 stars. The Good Daughter by Honey Brown, which I did read and gave 3 stars. The Jane Austen Book Club by Karen Joy Fowler, which I did read and gave 2.5 stars. Push by Sapphire, which I did read and gave 3 stars. How It Feels by Brendan Cowell, which I did attempt to read and then DNF'd, but I still count that. Safe Haven by Nicholas Sparks, which I did read and give 3 stars. Embrace by Jessica Shervington, which I did read and gave 3 stars. And Immortal Beloved by Kate Tiernan, which I did read and gave 3.5 stars. So as you can see from that, I did read all 10 of those books. So that was a successful goal. I then also, as a extension of that goal, my third reading goal was to read 10 of the first 20 books that I have marked as to read on Goodreads. So this is in a similar vein to the previous goal. It's just all about trying to get to making a priority of books that I have marked as to read, or written down as to read a really, really long time ago. So we'll kind of go through ones that I read from that 20. I wanted to read 10, but there were 20 on that list. So we had Looking for Alaska by John Green, which I gave 3.5 stars. Creed by Tricia Lever and Lindsay Curry, which I gave 3 stars. 1,000 Pieces of You by Claudia Gray, which I gave 4 stars. Then the fourth one on the list was The Silence of Six by E.C. Myers. Sorry, my foot is so badly asleep at this point. The Silence of Six by E.C. Myers, which I ended up removing from my shelf, so I haven't counted it as one read, but when it came up to that book and I was doing some research into it, because I believe, sorry, my shirt looks really weird, and that is cat hair, that this was self-published, I believe, and my library doesn't have it. It's not available on Amazon. I just had no way of getting my hands on a copy, and it wasn't something that I was hugely interested in, and so I've just removed that from my shelf, and I probably won't ever read it. The fifth book was Etiquette and Espionage by Gail Carriger, which I also didn't read because that is the first book in a spin-off series to the Parasol Protectorate series, which starts with Soulless by Gail Carriger, and I want to read the Parasol Protectorate series before I read the spin-off series, and so I didn't read that one because I haven't read Parasol Protectorate series. Sixth on the list was Alice in Zombieland by Gina Showalter, which I gave 3.25 stars. Seventh was A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, which I gave 5 stars. Eighth was Beyond the Highland Mist by Karen Marie Monning, which I gave 2 stars. Ninth was Through the Woods by Emily Carroll, which I gave 3 stars. 10th was Love Letters to the Dead by Ava Delara, which I gave 4 stars. 11th was The Impossible Knife of Memory by Laurie Holtz Anderson, which I gave 3.75 stars. And then 12th was I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson, where we can stop because I'd now hit 10 by that point. So there were 2 of those 12 that I didn't read. I didn't read any further once I hit the 10 because I was still doing that towards the end of the year. But I did read 10 of those first 20 books that I had marked as to read on Goodreads over the past year, which I'm really happy with. So it's another successful reading goal. My fourth reading goal was to read 70 books from my physical TBR that I owned prior to 2019. So if I purchased the book in 2019 and read it, it didn't count. It had to be books that I already owned prior to that year. And I wanted to read a minimum of 70. I had set my goal at 70 in 2018 and had not achieved it. And so I set it at 70 again in 2019, and I did achieve it. I read 73. I actually thought that I'd really beaten it. I knew at one point that I was close. And the last time I checked, I was close. And I thought that I'd read a ton since then. But when I calculated it at the end of the year, it was 73. So only 3 books over, but I did hit it. I read 73 books from my TBR of my physical, the books that I physically have on my shelves, TBR. I read 70 of them. in 73 of them in 2019. So another successful goal. My 5th reading goal was to complete the Around the Year in 52 Books challenge. So this is a Goodreads group. I will leave a link to it down below, where every year they have 52 different reading prompts / challenges. The way that it's technically set up is for you to complete one challenge every week. I don't do it that way. I just try to check off all 52 challenges throughout the year. I've been doing this challenge for several years now, and I do really enjoy it. And I did complete all 52 challenges in 2019. My next video, well, not my next, but a video that will be going up later this week will be a wrap up of my Around the Year in 52 Books challenge and what I read for all of the prompts within that. So stay tuned to that, but I did complete the challenge. And then my 6th and final reading goal was to reread 6 books / series. I technically had 14 rereads, as I mentioned earlier, I believe, but 6 of those were Babysitter's Club books, and 2 of them were like Michael Connelly books that I had read through kind of working my way now through the Harry Bosch series. And so I wasn't counting those. Those were series that I was already kind of actively reading, and so I didn't count. I wasn't counting those towards my goal. But I did reread Vicious by V.E. Schwab, Faking Perfect by Rebecca Phillips, Innocence by Kathleen Tesaro, Beautiful Disaster by Jamie Maguire, Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn, and The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak, which is 6. So I did complete that goal. So, excuse me, I have something stuck in my throat. Anyway, those were my 6 reading goals that I set for myself in 2019, and I completed all of them. I'm so proud of myself. I think this is the first year that I've ever completed all of my reading goals. So I've gotten close before, but I don't think I've ever completed all of them. So I'm really, really, really happy with myself. I did also set 2 channel goals. The first of those was to close caption all of my non-vlog videos, because I was doing regular vlogs at the start of the year. And I talked about this in my mid-year check-in on my goals, that I'd kind of chucked that goal in already by that point. It's just, I wanted to do it because I want my videos to be more accessible, but it just is not feasible for me. I already put so much time into my channel. I have a full-time job, I have family that I like to spend time with. I just don't have the time to close caption all of those videos. It was really, really, really time consuming to do. And so it just wasn't feasible, and I didn't end up doing it. Like I said, I had chucked that goal in pretty early in the year. And then my second channel goal, I only had 2, like I said, was just to edit less. And I can proudly say that yes, I did that. My videos are 100% less edited than what they were prior to this year. I'd mentioned in that video that I just wanted my videos to be, and the videos that I enjoy watching and the way I wanted my videos to be, it's much more chatty videos, that I wanted it to feel like you were just having a conversation with a friend. I mean, I watch videos that are quite heavily edited as well. I don't have a problem with that. If that's the way that you film your BookTube videos, you do you, boo. But I wanted my videos to feel, also just for the time, I didn't want to have to spend so much time editing stuff out of my videos. And if there's the occasional or thinking about things, or having to, I mean, if there's something really extravagant, of course I'll cut it out. But for the most part, I wanted it to feel like an authentic experience. And I think I've been really successful with that this year in terms of editing. I mean, I don't know how it comes across to you guys, but I've definitely edited less. For the most part, my videos are pretty much one take. I obviously edit in my intro at the start. But apart from that, once I kind of get past the intro, for the most part, I'm just going from start to finish. I really didn't think that I would be able to do that, because I did used to stumble and have to restart what I was saying and all of that when I used to make previously in my videos. But the more you do it and you just get used to ignoring the occasional stutter, you just get used to it, and you just become better at not making those mistakes and not having to. I make notes for my videos. I don't script my videos, but I do make notes, which obviously is where you can see me looking down all the time, and I'm checking my notes. And I like occasionally glance at my notes, but I generally make notes and then I review the notes right before I film the video just to try and remember everything that I wanted to talk about. Then I kind of glance down occasionally, and that's enough normally for me to be able to get through a video and talk about everything that I want to talk about without having to edit the crap out of it and pause all the time and edit it. So I think I was really successful at that this year. That is it. Those are my statistics and how I did on my goals. I am super proud of how I did on my goals this year. Stay tuned to my channel, as we will be having a 2020 goals video going up sometime next week, I believe. So stay tuned for that, because I'm going to be challenging myself to some new things for 2020. But yeah, I would love to chat with you guys in the comments down below. Would love to chat about how your 2019 reading year went. What were some of your highlights of like statistics that you guys had? How did you do on your reading goals? Did you set any? Did you achieve them? Are you gonna try? If you didn't, are you gonna try achieve the same goals for 2019? Are you setting new goals for 2020? I mean, I would love to chat in the comments down below. Please like this video if you liked it. Please subscribe if you want to see more from my channel. That is all I have for this video today. Bye, guys.